It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting, either through my website, emailrevealer.com. You can just email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. I'm really excited about today's guest. 83, 84 years old, we're not quite sure. Clive Howard Kelly. You can find his website at CKTBMM. That's Clive Howard
Kelly, the Beatles manager's minder.
All right. Clive Kelly, the Beatles manager minder.com, CKTBMM.com. He's coming out with a book. Keep your eye out for it on Amazon. It's going to be called Clive Alive. You can find him on Twitter, Clive Howard Kelly, and you can find him on Facebook, Clive Howard Kelly.
Not on Twitter, sorry. It's Clive Kelly with a large C for the first Clive and a large letter K for the second Kelly. So Clive Kelly, all one word, Twitter.
Yeah, but also, too, that's if you put that little @ in front of it. But if you just search Clive Howard Kelly, it comes right up on Twitter.
Does it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't steer you wrong, Clive. Don't worry. I'm going to get people to find you.
I'm not very up-to-date on technology. I've lived all my life on a sailboat.
Oh, and also, too, on YouTube, Captain Clive Kelly. So, Clive Kelly, when we got you here, tell us about yourself. Who is Clive Howard Kelly?
Well, first of all, let me just say, Yokati! That means I'm calling the spirits of the Amazon to accompany me in this interview, because I've been working all my life, and I've done more. Actually, this can be proven by the films I've made. They've been classed as a unique achievement, as a legend, just a few months ago at Classic Cannes Film Festival. I've done more than any other human being to help nature and natural people. And by the way, natural means nature. So natural people to survive more than anybody else, including David Attenborough, who I had to go to his house in 1972 when he was in the bath, actually. I went in the back way while he was still in the bath. And I said, David, please don't take any more animals to Regent's Park Zoo, because that's how he made his millions, by selling animals to the zoo. And so instead of doing that, he changed his life totally, completely, and started making films to help animals. Because I asked him, please, I've just made a 90-minute documentary film about all the culture and the tribes of the Amazon. And I want you to say something on it, because I'm releasing it at the CIA, which is the Institute of Art, the Contemporary Institute of Art, just in front of Buckingham Palace on the Mall. And, of course, Michael Bentine, one of the goons, and the other one was Spike Milligan. They came and compared that for me. And that film was it was a 90-minute documentary, Indians. That was the first film I made, and that was 1972.
And that's the film you were telling me about, Raoni, Raoni?
No, that's another one.
Different one?
That makes several.
Well, Clive, I'm really fascinated because when you check out your website, the CKTBMM.com, you have a lot of stuff in there about the Beatles. What was your connection to the Beatles?
Well, that's it. I was. Well, exactly what it says. I was the first one ever in history, ever. I mean, I was there when Paul met John. I was there at Walton at the Church Hall in 1957. And in 1958, I was the doorman that was guarding the Beatles as we got them together to practice in the Jacaranda Coffee Club in Slater Street, which is going down in history of Liverpool. My name's on the history of Liverpool, as well as Arthur Dooley, the most famous sculptor in England that made the cathedral called the Liverpool Wigwam. Arthur Dooley. I'm going down in his history because the Jacaranda Coffee Bar where I was protecting the Beatles, I used to go in my breaks to have a sandwich and a Coca-Cola and maybe a blow a spliff with Arthur Dooley, who lived next door, and we would go in, and he taught me how to make jewelry from horse shoe nails, which gave me my life's independence. I've never had to work for anybody, and I earn money wherever I go. Even if I catch a plane or a boat, I just sit there as we go, bending nails, and I always sell them. I always pay them fair.
Oh, okay, but what was your connection to the Beatles again?
Well, I was their guy looking after them. When I was their business manager, in as far as I was the partner of the manager.
Gotcha. And let me ask you a question. You hear all these stories about people think that Paul was dead and was replaced. Where do you land on all that?
Well, take a look on my Twitter page today, actually, and yesterday.
Okay.
I put a photograph of 5 Beatles with 2 Paul McCartneys.
Right.
And that'll explain that. And I'll get people to go to my Twitter, Clive Kelly, and see it and then read it there.
So you think that Paul was replaced?
There was another Paul. I mean, Paul can get tired, can't he?
Okay.
And people can pretend they can strum a guitar. You know, I mean, you know, if I went on tour, or you went on tour, and you're out every single day, and you've got such a clever, genius manager like Brian Epstein, who was my lover, and I was also his personal security. All right? I used to sleep with Brian at his mansion in London, and just a few time before he got killed, I was building a great big gaiola, or a cage, like a parrot cage, around the 5th floor veranda to his mansion house, which was attached to other mansion houses in Regent's Park, London, which is the Class A area. And I said to Brian, you know, because I used to sleep with him and we'd always hear noises. Now, it says in the newspaper that Brian committed, what did he say? He said Brian
suicide.
died accidentally. Well, he didn't. It said that Brian took an overdose. Well, he didn't, because the sleeping pills and the amphetamine pills were 5 floors down, locked in a kitchen cabinet. All right? And Peter Brown and myself, Peter Brown is Brian Epstein's personal, personal man, also came to look after Brian, and nobody got the key, not even Brian, to the drugs cabinet downstairs, because sometimes Brian would take LSD or ayahuasca or smoke a lot of dope or take other things like amphetamines or crystal nitrates or other speeds amphetamines, and then he'd be out of his head. So when you're out of your head, you know, people who look after you lock away the sleeping tablets and the other ones. So we made sure, I personally made sure, that he couldn't get at anything, so he didn't take an accidental overdose, and neither did Jimi Hendrix. They both got the same trip.
And who do you think was behind it? Who was behind it?
I can't say that on I know, but I can't say that.
Okay.
I can say it after a few more interviews.
Okay.
But,
now what about...
I don't think it's time to...
Okay. Let me ask you this then.
Point the finger now. When I'm known by your listeners, you know, and they know that I've done a lot of things more than any other possible human being on this planet, when they actually realize that, then they will know that I'm telling the truth, okay?
What about...
Until then, they don't believe I'm telling the truth, because my stories are just too varied and fantastic for any normal human being to believe.
Okay, Clive, can I ask you a question? What about you hear these theories that people have that like Tavistock was involved with the Beatles and their music, and maybe there was something bigger going on behind them? Like it was more of like a controlled movement?
Yeah, there was. There was that wanted the management, let's just put it that way. Also, Jimmy, I was with Jimmy just 2 days before he got battered. I mean, we were together in Sweden on tour, myself and Jimmy, and then we came back together. He went to the hotel, and he got exactly what he told me He said, I'm afraid to go back on my own, Clive. Can I stay at yours? I said, well, I'm going to drive to Turkey. He got whacked 2 days later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because of the management, let's put it that way. Because I don't want to go into all the details on that now.
Okay.
I'll go into a bit more detail when the people know me, and they'll know by what I've said, and they've investigated me, that I'm not telling lies, okay?
Yeah, man, we'll have you come back when the book comes out, Clive Alive.
Yeah.
So now, another thing you were mentioning, too, is that you have a connection to another Epstein, to Jeffrey Epstein?
Jeffrey Epstein, yeah. Well, I delivered a boat for him from Antigua, a 63-foot schooner, to the American Virgin Islands. Actually, he lived on Tortola. That was the first time I met him. Tortola is the British Virgin Islands. It's the only island that I've ever been to in the world, and I've been to 95% of them all. That has these great big round boulders on the beach. You can never mistake any other island in the world for Tortola, which means, not Tortola, it's called Virgin Gorda. It's another one of the British Virgin Islands called Fat Virgin. And Jeffrey lived there. And the first time I met him, well, he'd heard of me, and I'd probably met him before many times, but I didn't really note it. But my very beautiful 17-year-old first mate, Tanya, we called Tambi, Tanya Nomura from the Japanese banking family, the Nomuras, she was with me, and both her and myself, we have a flag on the front of the boat, my trimaran, saying we give massages, tattoos, do foot reflexology, haircuts, we will paint your boat and we'll dive and clean the keel, and there's many other on the list. I can send you a photograph of that flag if you want. I've still got it. So when Jeffrey Epstein saw it, he sent his photographer down, and of course we're totally naked, and he took it. I put a picture of that up on Twitter yesterday, and again this morning, of her and myself totally naked amongst the boulders, so that nobody can mistake the fact that it is Virgin Gorda, where Jeffrey Epstein had his house whilst he was converting the island, which you could spit from Virgin Gorda. It's just there in the distance, you know. And Jeffrey said to me, that's the island they made the shipwreck film with Man Friday. I forgot the name of that now. Robinson Crusoe, that was it. He says, I bought that. And then he invited us up after they'd taken our photographs, his personal photographer, and he said, I want a massage, and I want you both. So I massaged his back. You know, that's what I did. I mean, look, I sail around the world non-stop. I usually stop to give talk shows and teach in Kids Unlimited schools and marinas or in Rotary clubs. And I teach people how to protect the ocean and how to protect nature. And my trade name, Mark, was Seaside, S-E-A-C-I-D-E. Seaside Stop It, which means stop killing the oceans. So as I travel, I teach that. And I went to see it at the age of 13 years of age, in my own built canoe, and I then ended up going around the world as a first-class ship's photographer, and I invented the film coloring called sepia.
Well, wait, Clive, let me back up a bit here. How old? What year did you meet Epstein?
Oh, you can't get me on the years because I can tell you it's all between.
Okay.
All between 1977. Yeah, when I took the guy that now owns the Tortola Yacht Marina, Nicolau Dualibi, when I took him from São Paulo, Brazil, at the age of 17, he was my disc jockey. I learned him to be a disc jockey. I said, come on, you'll be my disc jockey on the boat, the Survival, which is a unique boat that nobody's ever built one like this before.
Well, Clive, if your girlfriend was 17, we could pretty much get an idea of what year it was, right?
Well, I took him at 77.
So it was 77 when you met Epstein?
Yes, 70. Between 77, yeah, around about 77, 78, yeah.
Okay, and was he a wealthy man at that time?
Well, you see, I don't know how wealthy he was, but he was sitting in the place that we built in Antigua called Pizzas in Paradise. Mm. That's when I was looking after Greg Martin, who was George Harris, not George. Who was it then? George Martin, wasn't it? The recorder of the Beatles. Martin.
George Martin.
Right, Greg Martin, his son, I was looking after him. I was his personal security. And they all used to come into the bar we'd made because Stephen Crotty, who is now Keith Richards' sheriff and right-hand man on the estate in Jamaica, he's the one who got shot in the bum. Mm-hmm. Protecting Keith Richards' guitar. It's on the book written, the biography by Keith Richards, Stephen Crotty. And I put a photograph up on Twitter today of Stephen Crotty and Keith Richards saluting me. You know, it's on Facebook, Twitter today, yeah.
So around 1977, when you met Epstein, he was already with Ghislaine Maxwell?
It was between 77 and 78.
Around 77, 78. Gotcha.
Yeah, because when I arrived in Antigua, right, the very first night, I went with Nicolau Dualibi and Ken Maguire, who is Keith Richards' personal photographer, who owns Black Pearl Studios in Antigua, and he is also my spiritual brother, as we were both empowered by the His Holiness Rinpoche Kintase, who is a holy monk from the Dalai Lama's line in New York. Davy Bowie and I used to go there to the my spiritual sister, Jessica Bailey. She's a designer and an artist, and she's still living in New York. So if you want to talk to her, you can. She's quite well up doing things there in New York. What was the question now? It must have been 77, because when we arrived with the Trimaran Survival, a 55-foot by 22-foot floating dome, because I've got a dome in the middle of it, I made a floating Indian house with a 55-foot mast, and the rigging is like an actual pyramid. So when you're on it, you're like you're under a pyramid. And I built this, and it took me 3 years to build, with 6 men helping me. When I arrived in Antigua with Nicolau Dualibi and Ken and George and Jean-Pierre Dutelier, who's he's known worldwide, John, you can know, Duttilleux. Now, he's the CEO or chief of Forit Verge in France, and he is Sting's partner, or was, in the Rainforest Foundation, of which I was elected by the Indians to be the president of the Rainforest Foundation. But Sting stole that position from me by threatening to put drugs on my boat in Brazil and in the Indian villages if I didn't just shut up and let him take over. Now, he's got power behind him because he's got Andy Summers. And, you know, Summers was, his father was CIA. You know, if you look that up, you can find he was one of the top men in the CIA.
Sting's father.
So they've got power. So you do what you're told when it's coming to... So anyway...
Wait. You're saying that Sting's father was CIA?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not Sting's. Summers.
Gotcha.
Not Sting's. Andy Summers.
Now, what about any kind of... did you observe any kind of intelligence connections with Maxwell and Epstein?
Yeah, they were there that first night. Big orgy, loads of cocaine. Now, the next night, see, they were all shagging one young girl there. I think she was only 17. I didn't go. I just stayed watching it through my porthole. But all my crew and Jean-Pierre Dutelier, who's the biggest scam master in the world, he's robbing everybody by setting up false charities like Tribal Life Fund and Rainforest Foundation. He ripped the Tribal Life Fund off for $500,000, right? And that's I denounced that on the World in Action program on Granada TV. I've already denounced that. You can see that on Granada TV. I've already done that, and I've proven that Sting is a thief and a fraudster already. You know.
Let me ask you something, Clive. I'm looking at. I went on Google Images and I put in Clive Howard Kelly, and I see the cover of the New York Times, right? And it says, "An Amazon child paves captain's way." What is going on there?
Well, if you read it, you'll know, won't you?
Well, I can't. Well, it's too small. I can't. I want to. I'm talking to the guy.
Listen. Yeah. I don't know where you've been, and if you don't know that Chief Rayoni is the biggest chief in the world.
Okay.
If you don't know that, I don't know what you're doing most of the time, because he's been with the Pope, he's been around the world with Sting, he's been to every world leader. He's constantly staying at Campus Elysees in France or at the President's house. He's been with the King of Norway. He's been over to see him in the Amazon. The last person, I've forgotten his name now, was setting up Rowney Coca-Cola. They're going to call it Rowney Cola and Rowney Perfume. And he got flapped. He got killed, murdered, just recently, a few years ago, actually now, in the Amazon, because Jean-Pierre, because he contacted me, and I said, look, I'll tell you about Jean-Pierre and who he's robbing. And then he got whacked by Jean-Pierre. But I can't prove that. But it's too much of a coincidence to not be true, what I'm saying, you know. I've only got circumstantial evidence on that one. So what else did you ask me?
Well, I was curious about intelligence connections with Maxwell and...
Well, the intelligence is a snort, a lot of cocaine together, and you know that people who put a lot of slopes up the brain, they go slopey-brained. And they just keep talking how much money they've got and this, that, the other, and what they're going to do. Because when you take cocaine, you go into fourth gear. You know that.
Okay, so you saw them using coke, but what about
Well, of course I did.
Okay.
Everybody did it all the time. They just did it. As common as you drinking a cup of coffee, you snorting lines or smoking dope.
No, I hear you, bro. I was a smuggler myself. Okay, I hear. Okay, all right, man. But
I probably know you then.
We probably do. We seem to run across the same people. Okay, but my question is: any connections to like CIA or Mossad? I've just told you that Andy Summers, Stuart, what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. Stuart, the drummer with the Police. What was Stuart Copeland, isn't it? I know who you're talking about.
Well, Stuart, the drummer with the Police band.
Right. His father was CIA.
That's right.
Right. Okay. I do know that story. I have heard that before.
And they have offices right where you are in California. There.
Hey, what about Hank Harrison? Did you know Hank Harrison?
Hank.
Yeah.
Harrison.
Yeah. From he was with the Grateful Dead. And father of Courtney Love?
I don't know that.
Oh, you don't know
anything about him.
Okay,
no.
Okay, because he was in these same circles as well. I was wondering if you ran across him.
Well, no, come on, man. You know, I had every day at least 100 people visit me about Trial Survival. It was a floating Amazon and Captain Clive Kelly museum. So half of it was dedicated to Beatles memorabilia, and the other half was the Amazon with music and the doll, the automatic Rowney Indian that moved 8 gears, turned his head and turned the pages of a book, which showed our history and Sting and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, who still owe me a paid-for contracted show. You know that, don't you?
No, I didn't know. Yeah, I do remember that. You sent me that.
Yeah.
You sent me that. Yeah, my memory's not that great. Okay. Now, what about the royal family? I had a lot of connections with the royal family there.
Yeah, well, Lady Kathleen, well, she was only a Lord Robert's daughter. Sure, there's a story there. There's a story there. But I don't think we should waste our time now going into it. But she got me put into prison. And then her father, who was Lord Robertson, took out a court injunction, and I was put into Lancaster Castle, where the Duchy of Lancaster, who controls all of Lancashire, and she was the Queen's best friend, and the Queen goes to stay with her, or did when she was alive, every summer at the castle. All right? And Prince Edward, he gallops across Morecambe Bay with his chariots, and his, that's what he was into doing, galloping across the sand, which was full of dead animals, poisoned by the sheep farmers, who were the Masonic sheep farmers and friends of the Duchy of Lancaster. In the Castle of Lancaster, I photographed it as well, there's over 500 shields. And each shield for every tradesman and farmer, even the electrician and the baker, in the castle, in the presentation room, owned by the Duchy of Lancaster. So she gives favours to everybody who's a tradesman in Lancaster if they keep quiet. And the Masonic ones, they put poison down to kill the ragwort plant that grows near the seaweed, where they've made sea walls with grass on the top, so the sheep can graze that grass mixed with seaweed and get very fat. And so, because the ragwort plant, which is good for the flowers, it's good for the bees, it's one of the favourite foods, it's a cure for animals, it's not a poison. But like any drug, if you take too much of it, you're going to get poisoned. Any drug, even coffee. So, but what the sheep farmers do and did and still do, because I photographed it just 5 weeks ago, the poison is still there in piles blowing into Morecambe Bay, where they're going to build the Eden Complex. They've already started. Eden Complex, look that up, Eden Complex. They've got one in Cornwall, and now they're building one in Lancaster Bay. It's Eden is like great big gardens and tropical jungles. And
but Clive, let me stop you for a second. Let me stop you for a second, because you said
I don't know what I was saying. What I'm saying.
I know,
I'll
because
lose thread, won't I?
You said something. You said that I think you said that the Queen would give business to the different Masonic lodges.
Right, well,
wait. For them to keep quiet. Keep quiet about what?
Well, about the 22 Chinese, that's one of the reasons, that died, screaming for help on the radio. I have a recording of it somewhere, but you can get a recording if you go to Google, I suppose. Screaming, help, help, the tide's coming in. Please help us. We are dying, we are dying, as they were drowning. And yet the Lancaster lifeboat didn't even go out to help them. And they were calling for help for over half an hour. In fact, the last one died standing on the roof of his car, a Volkswagen. Because they were collecting cockles, right, for the restaurant and pub called the White Inn, frequented on a regular basis by the Queen of England. Every time she comes down, she eats cockles. And the Chinese 22 cockle pickers knew something that they shouldn't know, and the lifeguard, because I mean, it's all circumstantial evidence. I'm not saying anything profoundly obvious with evidence to show to the judge in a court. I'm telling you, circumstantial. It's all circumstantial.
Okay,
right?
so besides
why did they let the Chinese die? That's circumstantial.
Right.
Why the same night as they were dying was the Queen eating cockles with the Duchy of Lancaster in the White Inn, whilst the group run by John Clayton, who was the managing director, CEO of Radio BBC Lancashire, that blocked me on the radio and has done for the last 20 years from speaking.
So, Clive, besides these 22 Chinese, is there anything else, any other secrets they're keeping as well?
Yes, the Masonic Society is using... Right, here goes. The biggest profit-making machine is fertilizer and insecticide, herbicide, that sort of thing. Now, the big ships are coming regularly on a weekly basis to Lancaster Dock, right, which is after Blackpool, then you've got Fleetwood, and then you have Morecambe Bay. And in that bay is Glasson Dock, right? And next to Glasson Dock is Lancaster Castle. And below that is where they used to bring all the slaves into England. Well, not all, but most. A lot used to go into Liverpool. But a lot, and there's graves there, not graves, but stones saying this is where Sambo, the slave, died. And they're all there in Lancaster on the same beach I'm talking about.
So then, wait, Clive, then the other thing, the other secret they would be keeping has something to do with fertilizer? What are you telling me?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All right, here goes. To find out the full facts of this, I went to investigate, because I was investigating pond side, seaside, and riverside. Now all means the killing of. And I went there and found millions, I've got photographs, of dead crabs, seagulls, rabbits, fish, turtles, all dead. And so I photographed them. Then when I photographed them, I went to see the port captain of Lancaster to tell him why is the bay that he's supposed to be protecting. And also I contacted that other guy called the Coast Guy. His name is Neil Oliver. And I call him the blind coast guy that protects the coast. And he doesn't like that. He's the one who does a talk show every day on GB Radio, Neil Oliver. Right? He's like you are, only bigger, in England. He's really big in talking and journalism, all right? Neil Oliver. He used to be the coast man working for BBC, making programs all around the coasts of England.
Clive, let me ask you this. In your
So let me finish what I'm going to say.
Okay.
All right, then you make a number of that next question. The ships, the big ships, bring the poison, which is called guam. And because they can't, the deep keel ships, because they're big, heavy cargo boats, they can't go into the bay, so they anchor at the mouth of the bay. And then the lighters, which are the little ships, go out and unload the powder out of the hold of the big ships. And they use a normal digging machine. And so about 20% of it drops into the ocean, and that is pure poison. Then when they take it into Glasson Dock, they then use a digging machine, and I've got photographs of that which I can send to you. It's not a digging machine, it's one of those conveyor belts that go into the cargo hold. They put the powder on it comes up, and when the wind's blowing, I would say that 30% of that powder blows back into the ocean, or into the dock, or the walls, or the castle, all right? So when it rains, all that poison goes into Morecambe Bay. And when it rains, all that poison that the farmers, the Masonic farmers, have put down on the hills to make the sheep get fatter, also washes into the ocean. Now, the sheep do get fatter, but when they have a neap tide, as you know, they have a neap tide, that's when the neap means a very high tide. When the neap tide comes, it washes up the banks where all the poison is, and it washes that into the ocean, and that's why all the animals down the coast are dead. And that includes the puffins and the seals on the coast of Scotland and Ireland, right? So when I found about this from the port captain, I contacted BBC, John Clayton, BBC Radio. And he said I was a liar and blocked me from speaking on any program or any other magazine like Northern Life magazine. I'd just done a 4-page story for Lancashire Life magazine, and I was following it up with one on Northern Life magazine, and they stopped it halfway through. I heard them ring up on the telephone whilst I was giving the story to Northern Life magazine and said, "Do nothing with Clive Kelly." And so they blocked me the newspapers, the radio, the television here in England, because I know too much. Got it?
Got it.
Right.
What about in all your travels? Did you ever run across Jimmy Savile?
Of course I did. I used to bloody hell did I ever go across. Jimmy used to give me a blowjob when I was 14 and let me into the Odeon cinema where he had the midday discotheque in Manchester. You know, he was the guy that ran the disc jockey at the midday session, 12 o'clock to 1:30 at the Odeon. I think it was the Odeon on the Regent. I'm not sure of the name exactly. On Oxford Street, no. On the main drag next to the Kilt, the Queers Bar in Manchester.
Gotcha.
And I used to go there, and if I let him give me a blowjob.
Wait, remember what we talked about? You can't.
What?
Oh, about cursing on the air.
I didn't curse. I said blowjob.
Oh, God, you can't say that, brother. You can't say that.
Well, all right, a suck job.
Okay. Let's move on. So you have. What
all
about?
All right, shall we say?
No. Come on, man. Come on. Hey, come on. Stop.
He fellatiated me.
Okay.
How will I do? Fellatio.
I noticed you have some pictures of Richard Nixon. What can you tell us? What was your connection to Richard Nixon?
So Jimmy Savile was my friend, all right? And I used to go in the discotheque free of charge. And in the evenings, we used to go to the nightclub together. And I ended up working as a stripper at the age of 14 as a stripper. I was a stripper. And Jimmy Savile and Jimmy Melling, who employed me as a stripper, Jimmy Melling from Rusholme, Manchester, who owned the Conservative Club in Rusholme. Well, his father did. Jimmy was just a bit young. But Jimmy owned the scrap metal business, and so I used to strip metals for him.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That kind of stripping.
Yeah, stripping metals. Yeah.
Okay, but you had sex with Jimmy Savile at 14?
No, I didn't. He gave me a blowjob. I didn't have sex.
Okay. Thanks a lot, man.
I'm not homosexual.
Okay, thank you, man. Listen, what about your connection to Richard Nixon?
Yeah, what about it?
Well, how did you run into him?
He came to my boat, in his boat, and I have a photograph of him standing on his boat, and he's talking to me, and his boat was called Bell, I think Bell Star or Bell Epoch. I've got the photograph. I'll send it to you if you want.
No, I've seen it.
On the Facebook page.
I've seen it, but now in the picture you said that was the mayor of New York City?
I said, I think it is.
No, it's definitely not. No, I'm from New York. That's no mayor I've ever seen in my lifetime.
I think it is because they called him Rui.
Yeah, no, that couldn't.
Well, who is he then? Take a close look at his face. He's somebody big.
I'm trying to, I was trying to figure out who that was. Now, what about an Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, he lived on the boat, Arnold, with me.
For how long?
Oh, only a week. I mean, we spent 10 days there, and then we sailed over together to the nudist island, him, Georgie Benson, myself, and other people, lots of people.
So what about Schwarzenegger? Any homosexuality there?
No.
Okay.
He's a nice guy, really. Oh, he loves women. No, he was shagging all the blooming my friends all the time in the saloon. Drinking his whiskey. He liked to drink a whiskey, Gianni.
Okay.
He used to get stuck in the toilet because he's so big.
Now, when's the last time you had any contact with any of the Beatles? Today?
Yeah. Today.
With who?
Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney and I are friends.
And how do you, on the telephone?
No.
No. But the Paul McCartney that you think was replaced, though, this is
no. There's a photograph of two Paul McCartneys.
Right.
I put on that Paul sent to me.
Okay, but you're friends with the real one.
Yeah, I thought he's there. Yeah, of course I am.
Okay, and
If you want Paul McCartney's, well, he hasn't given me permission to give you, and so I won't unless you request it from me. Then I will ask Paul. All right, his Twitter, the way of getting to him via Twitter. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sure, I'd love that. Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, I had May Pang on the show a couple of times.
May, she came all the way to bloody England to meet me.
Oh, really?
May Pang. She came to what they call Lanky Beats Club because I opened that with a guy called Bill Hart, who ripped me off for my last 2 books. He published the books for me and then ripped all the money off, and then he opened a club with me called Lanky Beat that became Lanky Cats. And May Pang and the other one came, Astrid Kirshner. Astrid Kirshner was Stuart Sutcliffe's wife. She was the one that gave all the Beatles hairstyles because she was a hairstylist. So they both came to see me, and it was the time when Bill Hart, who was my partner in the Lanky Beat, and I've got a newspaper here talking all about the Lanky Beat Club of Bill Hart and myself, which I can send to you if you want it. You have to send me an email with your address.
I got you. Let me see if I got this straight, though. You started out like in the nightclub business, and then
at the age of 13.
13, and then you went into like the like a yacht business.
I was the partner of, well, not the partner, but Lonnie Donegan. My old man's a dustman. He wears a dustman's hat. He wears God blimey trousers, and he lives in a council flat. Oh, yeah. You know that one, don't you?
No, I've never heard that before.
Oh, my goodness. Lonnie Donegan was the first one in England after George Formby. Then everybody copied, and that's how the music skiffle. Skiffle. I was a skiffle player. I played the big bass, which is a tea chest with a brush on it and a string to the tea chest. And I also played my mother's scrubbing board, taught to me by Lonnie Donegan himself, who lived with us for a while. Well, he didn't live with us he stayed a few nights. When he was playing at Bellevue in 1953 or 4. Where is it? And my mum brought him home because he's Irish. And my mum has we used to have 30. My mum had the lodging house in Manchester, Denton, which only lodged Irish men. We only had Irish men because most of the other places had big plaques in the window saying no blacks and no Irish. So because I was a Kelly, I was beaten up, my legs were broken at every chance the school kids got when I was younger. That's why I became the best fighter, and after that I've never been beaten, because I practiced all my time to learn to street fight, to be a dirty fighter. I don't fight by the Queen's rules. I fight a bit of judo, a bit of jiu-jitsu, but karasu, every kind, in fact, and biting penises and balls off and spitting them out. I am a dirty fighter, but I win. All right? That's the truth as well. Because I was beaten up so many times, I had to learn at an early age to be a Kelly. I was accused of everything. When I was 7 years old, they broke my leg, my arm, and 2 ribs.
Well, let me ask you a question then.
All the school attacked me at the age of, 7, when I went to Oldham Primary School because they thought I was a Nazi German that had come down the parachute to attack them, and so they all wanted to kill me. Because Oldham, they had their own accent, and I didn't speak that accent, you see. And my father owned 8 different pubs, and the pub he owned in Oldham was called The Dog. And we just suddenly went to Oldham and opened a pub. And so everybody was jealous, and so they attacked me.
Clive, we're almost out of time, but I was going to ask you, if you were out on your own at 13 years old, what was your relationship like with your parents and your family?
Well, what about it? I mean, my mum knew. I wrote letters to my mum, and I didn't really have too much to do with my dad because I used to fight for my dad when I was a child. I used to cover myself in soap and jump from the top stairs down, jumping to the middle of it. He was having fights every night in the pubs because he was the master mason of Denton. He was also owned Moorfield Engineering. He was trained by A.V. Rowe, who was my uncle, A.V. Rowe, who opened the aircraft factory in England to make the Spitfire aircraft. And my father was the aircraft inspector and designer, and I've got his birth certificate here, if you don't believe it, I'll send it to you, which is now Hawker Siddeley and Company, which are making the jet planes to protect England. And I did an exhibition just last year at Harris Museum and Library in Preston, and they built a plane, especially a Spitfire, and put my photographs all over it, telling my story of how my father owned Moorfield Engineering that made the tail that helped make the pieces for Spitfire aircraft. And when I was only 4 years old, my father lifted me on a large stool and said, "Clive, press this button." And it was a big metal bending pressing machine. You see, because my uncle Rowe, he owned A.V. Rowe, which became Hawker Siddeley, and my father worked for him, and then when they needed other factories, they took over a great big mill in Denton, Manchester.
Well, wait, can I ask a question?
My father was the director, and he carried on making parts for the Spitfire. And then they threw a bomb down on the factory, and it killed, well, it didn't hit the factory, it missed, and went and bombed the golf club next door, which is next door also to my uncle A.V. Rowe's house, so that was blown up. In Denton, Manchester.
Real quick, Clive, because we're running out of time. So real quick, I got a question for you.
Like I said, you're going to have to talk to me for at least a month.
Well, you said that
you're never going to get anything unless you talk to me, listen to me. You can't keep cutting me.
You come from a family.
I've got the most incredible stories and facts to tell. You've got to give me time to tell them.
I know, man, but trust me, if I don't know what you're saying, the audience doesn't know what you're saying either. Let me ask you a question. Now, you come from a family of military contractors. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I don't. I come from an Irish father and a mother whose father owned all the horse stables in Manchester, my mum.
Okay.
My dad, Irish, had to leave Ireland because they were starving them to death, and they were putting all the Irish men into training centres in Wales, just like Hitler did with the Jews.
Okay.
So my father escaped being killed by the English government and came to England and decided he was going to learn to make aeroplanes, and he did.
Now, in all of your travels, okay, you're traveling around the world, you're going to the Amazon and stuff like that.
I've been traveling since the age of 13.
Yeah, I know. We only got a couple of minutes, man. So now, were you ever approached by any kind of intelligence agency, CIA, or used as an asset in that capacity?
You've not even asked me about the time that we massaged Jeffrey Epstein and the time that Ghislaine Maxwell seduced me. You haven't even asked me those questions, you know.
I know.
Tammy massaged his body and I massaged his feet, that guy called Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell, she lived in the powder house in English Harbour, just seducing young children that came. I mean, that's, cocaine was... Do you know what they did?
We're out of time.
The people of Antigua covered pizzas in paradise with human shit and Jeffrey Epstein.
All right, man, we're out of time. Thank you very much. Good night.